That was beautiful. Okay, dude, is it really again? What do you guys think? No one's here, so I just thought he was here immediately. Yeah, that would be a big ask for me. Big ask. But like some Himalayan. I played these all. Something no copyright is. Oh, fuck it. There we go. Ooh. I'm just checking out the volume. It looks like it's a little loud, honestly. I usually have that like there. That's probably good. Okay. So I just kind of just decided to stream about shaligrams rather than going to bed like a reasonable person at 12:54 on a Wednesday night. Here we are with my obviously unreasonable lifestyle. Checking out shaligrams. Oh, that's right. I need to do this. Pacha! Let's check this out. Let's see. What do you mean? No. Should have had that right. There we go. Okay. Okay, we're set up. Let's meditate for a moment. Oh. Like, is anyone there? I'm just fucking around. People like, what's going on here? I don't think I'm serious. I mean, it's kind of fun. Maybe I should be serious. Why aren't you serious about it? Well, when I did that, I could almost feel like arms. Like extra arms. That would be cool. Okay, so I'm just kind of delaying a little bit, but I should probably get started and not just sit here being whatever is going on, really lost in my head. So we got some new Shaligram images that I posted, and maybe we'll check out some. Let's see. This one is incredible. Do you see what I see? What is this? So let me, like, starting here. And then over this way, though. Like, this way. Down here. Back across. And just generally connecting it. With a division to it, but so like added complexity that it is divided like that, giving it more of like a chakra pillar with 2 lobes kind of thing. Mind you, this is basically a cross section into a chamber, like one of these, but actually eroded into it a little bit. So let's go to this posting. Maybe this one. Or is it eroded? Is it like maybe chipped there? I think that's where I was looking. Right there. And then over here, and just around it. So let's change colors. Maybe, sure. Then there's this boundary here. That seems maybe, like, it's hard to say if that's the text. So maybe that's not there. That might just be the text. But over here it was there. Kind of like here, there's like a boundary. Something like right there. But not so much that one, like in terms of what we're looking at right now. So maybe I should get rid of that. Somewhat. That's good. I guess actually that was kind of what we're looking at. Then if we kind of extend it, like maybe it goes a little further, looking down here, I don't know, just somewhere down here, and then back like that maybe. But around it, we see patterns. Sorry if I'm kind of slow going getting into this. I might be a little, yeah. Like this. This is what really... Like, it looks electrical, like toroidal. And then, like, kind of wrapping around here in some ways, but also going across, but having multiple things, so it kind of does that. Goes over this way, more so out like that. And then here it's a little something. But, like, what is that doing in this fossil? Mind you, I did not draw the entirety of this. The fossil ends over here. But this structure continues over here. I'm not even able to do like the totality of how far it goes because it's like long lines that seem to continue pretty far. Plus with like part of it doing like this. Like complexities that maybe science has excused such things as like because of the structure of the ammonite. But like it's a field. It's not like ripple, like if it's because of the structure of the ammonite, why is it like propagating from right there? So any like general bullshit that modern science would apply to this can't actually, like, is not acknowledging that it's not really reasonable. I mean, there's so, do you see the layers in there? It's kind of incredible. I didn't, like, the images are not that great to see it in that much detail, and I don't think it's worth it to me to try to get it, but, like, you can really see this, like, almost like a eruption, like a volcanic eruption out of this place that actually has a little slit there at the end where more current was erupting. It's kind of interesting. Makes me think of maybe a type of volcano that's not really. I was looking at patents today. Oh my god. What was I just going to? Oh yeah. I think if I do it this way, I can find it easier. I need the right vendor. I'm just looking for a Shaligram real quick. This vendor. What's their hugest one? This one. The way these are. Hugest one! Okay, let's go back though. This is maybe not the most exciting one, so maybe I should just move past this one, but just kind of get a little bit more glancing at it. I should at least like document it, maybe like that. If anyone's curious in like a later time, because I really just do this for a later time. Appreciated to anyone who is here, but I don't know if that's a very high number. So, like, I just aim to talk to, like, society. That's the thing. Like, hey guys, like, these aren't fossils. Like, the society at large should be aware. These are not fossils. These are etched by current flows. We might want to know that and, like, kind of be able to contemplate the ramifications of that reality. Okay, let's go to the next one. So that's that one. This one I thought was pretty interesting. I said the bottom chakra of this one extends to the bottom right, but is sort of opening up the space as a second ammonite. So I was basically suggesting like this area, specifically right here, is behaving very much like over here, just like way less. so it didn't like form as much, but it's behaving like over there. But it's actually part of this structure. So I said it's sort of opening up the space of second ammonite. So it's got a chakra-like formation here, which is actually looking much like the more distinct chakras over here. So like, this is not what chakras typically look like in a shaligram. Like a pristine chakra, say, might be more like this. Like, that's not what we see here. We see just kind of like a nub. And the top one's got at least like the shapes. But it doesn't really have the differentiation or any apparent structure on the surface, because maybe inside there's some, but this just kind of looks like smooth. And this pillar of the chakra doesn't really look fully like truly like a chakra tends to, because it didn't quite form. Sorry guys. 1 second. So peaceful. Ah, yes, the constant throat clear it really bring peace. So then some other images of this as the theme that hopefully maybe you're acquainted with, where we're seeing like pseudo ammonites within the stone. So like the dominant ammonite is over here. A recessive ammonite is over here. We're an ammonite. Oh man, 1 second. Oh my god. Sorry guys. An ammonite is an eddy that formed in water. Highly pressurized water currents that these stones were forming and formed in, and being etched by and shaped by, and differentiated where the grains were moved within the stones, particularly like pyrite distribution kind of thing. In this case, it maybe was a little more of a preformed stone that then had an eddy formed in it. I'm not like the spectrum is a little more gray in terms of like whether they can form in a like hard rock, or if they really need the grains to be moving around. I think it's like the whole spectrum is possible. It's just the grains can move in the stone and physically be transported through the chakras out the other side and then down into a basin at the base of the stone. So like a good example I always reference is this one. Where literally the chakras in here had a current flow funneling down from this top down into resistance below the chakra though, where this eddy is forming. So there's an eddy forming, a resistance, basically a current flow into the resistance that then has an eddy that is shaping the stone, but it's also literally not just like etching a preformed material. It is literally taking the grains, moving them from this top down through it into the base, where then those grains accumulate to the point where they overflow in the pressure, because this is all under highly pressurized currents that are just basically holding this in a container of the pressure. So as this downflowing current flows in an eddy, it pushes in, but then that flow pushes out sideways into resistance to the point where it builds upward into the downward flow and essentially forms a counterflow, but specifically in a conduit, not like the whole range of the ammonite structure where it's flowing back like directly. It literally forms a conduit path that doesn't always like take shape like this. But this one is a really good example of the conduit that formed as this eddy was happening, that then transported the materials to the top, drained back through and cycled it, and basically the larger grains of pyrite and quartz tended to concentrate in the ammonites, whereas like shale tended to concentrate, the finer grain particles of the shale tended to concentrate in the boundaries, making shaligrams tend to be like this frequently. I mean, literally, its shape is mathematical beyond the ammonite. Not just the ammonite is mathematical. The totality of this stone is mathematical. Its contours, everything about it, is impossible by random coincidence of just a river flow eroding some base material to this. That just wouldn't happen. Scientists would argue, sure it would, but there's cases that it's literally not possible for the thing to be a fossil. Let's look at some of these impossible fossils that disprove science. Like this one, where it has two chakras forming and just big mounds that then have the standard suture patterns of an ammonite that then just branch over this way. And where does it go? I don't know if we see here. We gotta see the whole thing to really see how ridiculous and impossible it is. What was that, like 140 something? Pacha! These are boundaries that found in a shaligram setting are found all the time, but they're found like here. These are maybe not the best wavy ones, but like they tend to be wavy like this. Like here. So we see this pattern, which is a boundary pattern on one side of this shaligram, and then on the other side is this mound with two weird chakra-like things that just anomalously form because it's not an ammonite, it's not a sea creature shell, it's formed by eddies. So it's got a peculiar structure to it that's not just like actually what shells would do. It's what it's what currents can do. They can do a lot of things, including this, which is why it wraps around the stone and creates these chakras that have these suture patterns that then just wrap around as the teeth. So the suture patterns in an ammonite setting also are on an ammonite. But those are like, I think there's some here, like here. So they're literally not the same. They're just not this. There's no way this pattern connects in an ammonite to a boundary structure of the ripples going like 1, 2, 1. Like it doesn't actually happen in an ammonite structure anywhere, let alone does it do it where the suture patterns are indented, not like concave concave but convex. I think I have those right. I'm not even sure. But actually, like, indented into the stone, which would imply, like, the ammonite was not, like, it doesn't actually make any sense at all. That's just one of many examples of shaligrams that literally cannot be fossils. This one's drilled into by the current flow to a point where it literally has the hole, but the current drilled into the stone. This is not someone found this stone and was like, oh, we gotta get into this stone and drilled into it. No, no, no. This stone, as other Shaligrams evidence, formed like this. They are incredible works of art. This stone is incredible. It did not just get drilled by someone trying to like find the center of the ammonite. This literally formed by a current flow drilling into the stone that then got into it and then formed an eddy inside and vented the current along paths that then shaped the stone to have an ammonite in it by an inflowing current, inducing this ammonite. But it didn't excavate the hole some reason. I don't know exactly why. Maybe there was some kind of void in the stone that gave it enough space that it could like vent without, or like some thickness here where it like wasn't, I don't know exactly, but some reason it didn't remove like the typical window into the ammonite like this. It didn't do that where it just cut all the material out. It just left the whole of the inflowing current, which happens regularly. Sometimes it deflects off like this one here where it goes in and then back out instead of like going in and eddying like within the stone. It goes in and right back out and eddies at the boundary of the stone instead. So it still eddies, but at the boundary of the stone. And then it was like doing the same here, but it probably like moved. Like it wasn't stable there and repositioned over here over time, and then the current just flowed into there specifically and not here, or vice versa, where it flowed into here and then at some point it flowed into here. It probably was the same current just based on the diameter or whatever. It looks very much like the same current. Where this is the inflow side, and then it literally pushes the material through and forms like a wave of the material bulging out this side, but it strips out the smaller particles, which then make it actually change like the composition. And it probably also embeds smaller particles in like the nucleus region here. It looks like it actually might have like embedded fine-grained shale material here while stripping some of the material here to make it more, it looks stripped more porous over here. It's like the same material just bulged out and stripped of some of the finer grained particles, it seems. But anyway, here's one that has a chakra on the ammonite, which should be at the center of the ammonite, but it's just on the side. Like this is part of, there's an ammonite here that has like an actual structure going out this way, and then abruptly there's an actual chakra here. Let's see. I mean, I could click at random, but like, here's another one. This one I have, and I've talked about in depth. Although, I've shown this to people and they argue it's a worm or like it's not an ammonite, but it really has everything of an ammonite except for just like the weirdness of the center. Like this is an ammonite up here. It looks completely like it would if it was an ammonite in its totality. It's just kind of weird shaped, so it's not quite like truly earnestly like one of these kind of things. It's weird, but it's not just a worm either. It's another ammonite type structure that was forming. It was an eddy that we can even see the trail to that goes this way and comes out of here, a current out of here that then ran into other currents and went this way, and then ran into a current out of here where then it eddied against that current because it was resistance, which then led to basically some of the current going through as these paths. And then over here it did it again. It's subtly there. I believe it's there. Somewhere there's another like eddy maybe here that's like similar in just like subtler. Where like it's more than just this thing in like arbitrarily. Oh, it's just got it's a worm that embedded itself. That's how it did it. There we go. We solved the puzzle. Here. See how mathematical it is? There's like two eddy centers over here on this other eddy that are like dividing the rock in multiple ways, with maybe even another here. Here's another one with drills, the current drilling in, but like all around and opening. It's bigger, but still seeing the like current drilling in. I believe this one somewhere in here the current influences the actual like rock in like the pyrite, so that, like its distribution is a function of the structures. I don't see it. I think it's this one. I think it's over here though. Let's see. Now that I said that, I should probably look for it. Yeah, that's what it is. Let's move on now. It's crazy how that. I don't know. It might not be this one, or I might have, might not be seeing whatever it is that I either saw or thought I saw. I can't remember. There's lots of cool features to this. Holy crap, the way the shale is on that is incredible. It's like it's eroded. And the internal shale flows are exposed. Okay. Let's get to ones that we have not talked about ever. So back to this one. So ammonites, in conclusion, are not fossils, they're caused by eddies. So we're seeing like a dominant and recessive eddy here. That's true, that's true. These streams are a riddle wrapped in an enigma. That's life, though. That's all of it. That's just everything, I feel. Maybe this, too. But so we got some chakras here. Back to these chakras. I know it's like, what? And lobe over here, lobe over here. Maybe even with that secondary chakra thing, where like this lobe is kind of close, so it has like a secondary chakra. And then chakra here with like the boundaries kind of forming around it. This one in this case is actually like offset, interestingly. I find like it's kind of like layers doing layer things. So I don't think this is just like the Shaligram, the ammonite this way. Maybe. I guess maybe. Still looks like a layer is doing layer things. Like if this, like, twisted almost. Or shifted. Okay, okay. That one doesn't look all that chakra-like, but... So, one of the features about this is for sure there's a chakra from this thing. So, like, if we just look at this, like, mostly we see an ammonite here. It doesn't really, looking at this, look all that, like, imposing or whatever of an ammonite. But then, like, all it takes is a little bit more chakra. And then it looks huge. Abruptly, this thing that, like, that's the thing, is a lot of ammonites are found where, like, stuff like this is just not even, like, noticed. And then, like, the core is what matters. So all this stuff is just removed. So any evidence of, like, surrounding details that also are relevant to, like, the ammonite in general and how they form in more typical ammonites that are not shaligrams is almost always this removed. And if it's retained, it's by just happenstance, and like it looks nice in the dirt still. Or whatever. Okay, so then there was this one. Do you notice anything odd? I guess you could just read what I wrote there. So firstly, it's a taco type shape, which we've been running into this kind of thing pretty regularly in the last post, in the last Shaligram Zone. I talked about it. But not one that looked like this. The one I guess I should pull up that post. Leave that one open. It says I'm live. We're live here. Post all. Here we go. This post. This one. This kind of thing, where it's a compressed, less erosive, like pressured currents. There's some current holding a boundary. Other pressures and like holding boundaries, probably the same current, like just at like 3 dimensions. So holding boundary back here, but also like getting pushed into. So it's getting pushed into, which is reducing this current's capacity to flow but it has all of this flow behind it applying pressure. So what happens when it reduces its capacity to flow is it pushes back, and then so there's pressure increased over here by the pressure on the current, which leads to a compressional zone, pretty much, in like a systematic, not every time, but like happens kind of way where one current is going one way and another runs into it, like specifically sideways like this, and maybe not so much like the other one that was like downward more so, like making that really peculiar shape to this one. Like this one is probably more of a downward propagating energy that's running into resistance, where there's balance around it generally, but the imbalance is from above, so it's pushing down, but with an eddy in the process, that's leading to this like resistance at the base kind of thing that then leads to this overall shape where like the ammonite itself is not like cut in half, even though it's cut in half like by the process, which maybe points to that there is like some element of the sideways current at play here. That like, it's kind of funny, it's like literally cut in half like smoothly here, even though like the stone as a whole is not cut in half is what I meant. But the cutting in half here is probably related to some like secondary balance then of the current, like from the side too, because it's going down, and that's probably leading to like other currents due to the pressures that lead to like a dominant and recessive forces on where everything else is overwhelmed, but like holding the pressure. I don't know if that fully made sense, pardon me. But so like this one, let's go back. Kind of made me think of that when I saw this one. By the way, it's just because it's not like the ammonite is broken as like modern science would interpret it, because it's in this matrix. So modern science would be like, well, this ammonite broke, like the shell of the sea creature broke, and then was fossilized, which is why this matrix can like wrap around it like this, like so smoothly. Whereas like an eddy can't really like have this thing blocking it, or this thing, so it kind of doesn't fit so well with like a just purely eddy kind of thing. But it like is the mechanic at play where there's a, let's say, like current flow one way or the other down here. It's just holding pressure. And then just another current flowing into it that actually gets into the stone to like a certain point, and just kind of like splashes off at that point, because the resistance is just like, it's running into resistance, where then it just like takes like a pseudo eddy shape where maybe outside of the rock it's more able to like somewhat take an eddy, so it still like forms a eddy on this side and does the things of the eddy shape of an ammonite. It just like is running into resistance to a point where it divided the structure. Like maybe there's actually another piece over somewhere else of the ammonite that was like on the other side of the current. I don't know. Then some other details that I circled is down here. So notice, like, if this is a seashell of a creature that once inhabited the oceans, as mainstream science claims, if it is, then why do these ribs, which are very, like, I'd say strong, like broad ribs, they're very broad, why do they abruptly over here, at the end of this broken ammonite, there's like 4 of them, little ones, like one, boop, boop, boop. The picture's not that great. It's just not that great of a picture, but we can see like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 even. But like over here, that's not at all what we see. And then, on top of that, if we kind of look over here, like this is really eroded. Compared to here, like right here is not eroded. So if we kind of go down to like this portion and look, only some of the paths have like a gouge in them. This one, a little bit there, a little bit there, but this one, maybe that one, maybe that one, maybe somewhat, but especially there, maybe there. My point is, it seems related to how much material is still here. Like this one has this extended thing, and then as if it's like pushing the current. No current, you're going into the Shaligram, it just pushes it down and erodes it as this current exits the stone. It's pushing it into the stone along that path, more so than over here where there is no thing to push into it except for external currents. So it's more like directly interacting with external currents, but there's no like material for those currents to push in to like hold the exiting current more with some kind of boundary between them. So it's more able to come out and it doesn't erode over here, it seems. And then over here it erodes a lot, but it looks like it's related to like running into exit currents. Like this looks like it's running into and kind of squeezing between maybe exit currents. That might be what's happening. Or exit currents here, squeezing between to this point here, squeezing between to over here, squeezing between to here, squeezing between to here, squeezing between to here. I guess squeezing between to there then. Where currents, like doing those kinds of things, could actually erode these structures in a I would say reasonable way. In terms of the like depth of erosion and things going on here. Whereas a fossil like has to explain this abrupt change and then this tendency to chambers and things, but like that it's so in the stone. It's very pronounced in this one. I've seen other Shaligrams like that. Maybe I can find it. Maybe. Probably in here, like this one. With this gouge, where just this chunk is being divided, but then over here it happens again. Like across from it, because it's a cross current that's doing it. really going like that. One way or the other. Again, like here, where it's like large chunks, it's not just chambers, it's chunks of the ammonite that are like physically divided by the process, kind of like this. Like it literally was like pushed out. Like this eddy was over here, but was pushed out, and like that's my thoughts. Something of that nature, where it actually divided the ammonite structure in a material way. Materialistic. This one's doing it a little bit. Let's see what else we got. Again, divided in half. I don't know why that's in there. This one, like that. This one. This was the one I was thinking of. Like, I knew that one didn't quite have what I was thinking of. This one. Where there's no reason if a true fossil would have such, like, pronounced divide. Like, what in the hell is this? It's so divided. And yet, and then it starts again, boom, divide. At, like, right across from it. Here we go, this one. Wait, what? Right there, right there, right there. It's divided into thirds. Straight up flux capacitor energies. Flux capacitor, man. This one is incredible. You guys ready for this? Oh, I'm hiding. Okay, now I covered the words on the screen. Do you guys see what I see? Okay. I like to do that. It's kind of fun. It's cool if no one answers. I don't really... I'd be like, oh shit, people are answering now. Oh fuck. That's what I'd be like. Oh shit. I'm just doing this little weird thing here. Okay, so we got this ammonite up here, the big boy ammonite that's just hanging out like typical ammonite, but then it's got this weird like bite in it. Or mouth looking thing that actually has the teeth, and like we were mentioning earlier, those are indications of the boundaries of an ammonite. Like the opposite side of this one was like these things that are just arbitrarily here, but also like actually at the boundaries. This one's incredible. Like, what is going on with this smooth, abrupt boundary in this stone, right? Like, what about a fossil would make the resultant stone have these exact, like, what the fuck? It doesn't actually make sense. It's so flattened and abruptly flat. It's like coins that are like wrapping around and then cut so that they fit together. It doesn't make any damn sense. This one's a little more rounded, I guess, but this one looks very flat. This one, I guess it's somewhat rounded, but it still has that like element to it, and it goes all the way around and then like connects around itself. This one's got hexagons, because that makes sense. Anyway, but this one has the teeth, so it has like it's literally from the chakra is one side, and then the opening, so the opening connects from chakra to chakra. It's incredible. Like even underneath, like this wraps and seems to go like underneath this matrix material to the actual chakra. So like the chakra, which I can only do like so, like looking at this sideways. Little chakra, like there's a chakra like inward though, and another chakra inward. So it's really going seemingly like along the outer boundary here. Like oops. Along the outer, or yeah, like the, I guess outer, in that outer part of the stone, but the inner boundary of the chakra, like as it goes into the center. So it's like actually like in the chakra itself, going in from within the chakra, and then back around, and then within the other chakra is this, then like the ammonite structure within an already ammonite structure that I've drawn pretty terribly. Is like a, I don't know, what's that dude, that green gummy dude. Gumbo, it's Gumbo. Give him some red legs. What's up, Gumbo? Maybe he's green. It's red Gumbo. I guess I can leave it. So there's that one. And then here's a Shaligram that I thought was incredible. Like, what? Mind you, okay, let's find these. Let's find these. Probably this. No. Nozzle, that's the one. I called it pole-to-pole nozzle, because it's basically like a spraying nozzle kind of thing going on. From pole to pole. So this one's got some of those cool like patterns in the stone as well, but here, that's interesting. Definitely some patterns in the stone that look like they're coming off of this. Which, by the way, recently I've realized this is more lens-like. Like they're like little discs, but then like if you push up at the center, so they're kind of like little lenses that then is spraying. Maybe even slightly like off center, where it's like a corkscrew. It's like a coil, like this little thing. The coil. The coil. makes me think of tension. And then this one where it's like equal balances, like it tends to be a flow in one direction kind of thing. That at least dominates the dominant and recessive flows, because I believe it's going in both directions. Like here, there's a secondary flow in the opposing direction. It's creating a secondary one going that way. But in this case, they're kind of balanced, so that they're really kind of equal. Which, interestingly, it seems to even be creating like a exhaust from here to erode this area some more, possibly making chakras by the balance and more of like a typical opening out of this. But like we clearly see like this kind of thing, just like in a weird way here. Again here, where it's got kind of like a narrowing from two lobe-like areas that are kind of similar. It looks generally like a current passing through, maybe. And then again, with the rounded top of these things, this image is going to come up again with one of the other ones, where it's just basically like a bunch of really thin wafers that are then comprised, that then larger wafers are comprised of. Like this wafer is comprised of a bunch of thinner wafers that then is attached to another wafer composed of a bunch that then create like structure over the like size of it all, that is these like Shiva lingam things. This one's kind of hexagonal because that makes sense. That's standard fossils. Standard fossils. But then we find one weirdly across an ammonite. Maybe like lying atop it. But like if this is a plate, if this is where current flows, like let's say there's a current flowing through here that is in a straight line. But some other current is like involved that's leading to an eddy here. Maybe like the resistance is over here because of this mound that's also like pushing in here specifically, but it actually does so in a manner to create an eddy where this goes to like a I'm just thinking like it possibly some other current generally out here related to this blue current of kind of like how this is happening, and another one here generally, but like where there's certain dominant areas that just cut everything away and there's nothing left, and then there's areas that like things are happening that are etched in stone, I guess. So then in this case, we have something more like this probably, and even again beyond that, like this, but where there's certain like pressure points from the process that then kind of hold the boundaries of the currents, so that then this red current generally like is caused to wrap back around here and eddy. Something of that nature. And where it didn't like replace this structure, but it did it underneath the blow, underneath it, where like it came in at enough of an angle, I guess. I don't know. Like a slope here where it actually formed underneath the inflowing current that then like was redirected from here into the eddy. Then the blue current also went generally this way, or maybe possibly also this way though, to like hold this boundary out generally. Like that spray thing we saw. Whoa, how crazy that would even like kind of relate to that. It's crazy how they relate to one another when I'm doing this. I'm just like looking at this one, look at this one, and then like the same thing comes up in a way that seems maybe actually relevant. That's like, it's just crazy. Maybe, I know like it's not following the ribs, but the ribs are like products of the overall eddy that's forming. I'm just thinking like maybe it like kind of starts in something more like that though. Okay, let's keep going though, because guess what? The next one looks just like it, but it doesn't have a name. Like it, there's no evidence that this is not the same one. It's not the same one, but there's no evidence that that thing, something of this nature, happened here externally, but it does have a very peculiar, like the way this is hard to like not kind of wonder if at least it had like, my thought is maybe the stone was more like a typical like this. And had a current flowing through it one way or the other. No, I really didn't draw well there. But possibly both ways. And then it just got overwhelmed and like overprinted by just this eddy that ended up taking shape. That was centered maybe in like this area, leading to some boundaries. But for some reason over here, so I guess it's probably going this way. And then this end is actually kind of fatter, so it suggests it was going downward, like down this way, just based on the other ones. Like that's as the nozzles suggest, if it's a nozzle kind of thing, where like this is kind of balanced, this is really dominantly coming from the wide end to the narrow end, and literally creating a spray nozzle. So maybe the same thing was happening here, where there was the whole time there was a current generally going downward in this image, and then another current generally going right, that maybe like didn't influence the stone right away to a point where it actually created like a more baculate like spine to the rock that then like didn't maintain. I mean, maybe like I can't say what's in there. Maybe there's some semblance of structure to the baculite thing besides just the way it is, kind of, and seeing it next to this one making me think of it. I literally saw these from this vendor in like a short list of shaligrams right next to each other somewhere. I think they have. Oh yeah, there they are. Literally one after another. And I was like, huh, they sure do look related. They sure do look related. So probably something like that, where it's maybe coming in, this one is more angled than I drew it. It's not actually like a right angle, it's more cutting into it a little. I don't know. Just based on this boundary here being so large. Where then it just forms the eddy, and then once the eddy forms, it does what the eddy just does with creating paths that it vents out of the stone. Which run into the resistance. I guess I might as well just keep going a little bit. I think there. Dot, 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 dot. The reason I do that is so I can do this. It vents this from the stone's top side here and the bottom side, which then comes back and goes between these to like lead to this boundary that then like over time like gets back into the stone, but maybe not always, but like leads to that boundary between them wherever they are, and vice versa, where like the other side has these green currents probably similarly etching like these yellow ones look like, so that they're interlocking from both sides, but then actually like flowing in that like at these points too, or wherever. It's hard to keep track at this point. As it inflows between the currents. Out of the process, I mean, voila. Magnifique, oui. C'est bon. Très bon, oui. And then this one, I thought this was interesting. I don't know if I remember. I think I just more so was documenting that one. It's doing the stack thing. Maybe I have layered. I don't know if I have the one I was thinking of in here though. Like this is kind of doing it where it's like layering. Let me re-look at it. Okay. Wait, what am I looking for again? Kind of doing it with stacks. Okay, these need to close, I guess. That's not the one I'm looking for either. Some incredible Shaligrams, not the ones I'm looking for though. This one's freaking huge. The details of the large ones are so incredible. Like, what? Look at this chakra. Oh my god. And then up here. Oh my god. It's just pillars. Ah, it's beautiful. And why is it so widely eroded? Doesn't make sense for like a fossil. That is just. Oh my god. Pardon me as I sidetrack and just check that one out and see if there's anything that pops out I haven't looked at in a while. It's definitely got lots of little breaks, like paths in it. Not breaks, but also breaks, but not just breaks, but important flow channels that are then like having the structure divide into smaller segments, where it looks like it's even a smaller segment of a larger structure itself that then like it actually did divide from other segments in the same way, just they're no longer there where these are not actually fully divided. Here's one that's kind of doing that layering thing, which is a little taller than it maybe it would typically be. Still not the one I'm looking for. That one's kind of not of the same nature, where it's just like spiraling in appearance. Maybe this one has that going on too, but it's more just like a block of matrix underneath it. Not so much detail like that. That one's sideways. Here's one, this poop, swirling poop thing. That's kind of got that nature. Like, it looks really similar, right? For being a pile of poo and an ammonite structure, or multiple ammonites, it's hard to say what's happening here. It looks like a chakra's here, and then another chakra's here that seems to be fading out over here. It's hard to say what is even happening in this one exactly. Ammonite here that just kind of fades out. I guess that's this that we're seeing. What we see of that up here is this. It's a lot like the poo. It's a lot like the poo. Let's check out the poo from some other angles. Still looking a lot like that poo, huh? You know, that's all the poo we got. That's the end of the poo stream. Can't miss an opportunity for a poop joke. I mean, it just is what it is, you know? That's life. Isn't that just a little too, like, subtle, but apparent? It's like a combination of subtle and apparentness that doesn't really make sense. kind of like shaligrams, like in terms of the blatantly subtleness of that they're not fossils is blatant but subtle. Kind of like shaligrams in itself. This is cool. The way the matrix is here, almost. Wow, it's quite incredible. Quite incredible. From here. I guess it's pretty much the same images, so I don't know. I was hoping I could maybe zoom in without saving them. But do you guys notice anything here? If you didn't read the thing, now you can't read it to notice. Do you, like, if we follow this one? Okay, that's cool. Let's follow this one. Alright. Follow this one, and what do? We've come into this segment here. It's like, huh, okay, that seems to like fade out a little bit. Go up here. That one seems a little more like cohesive, and then up here, that one seems a little more present. But like we see it here, like we see little dot, like specks, like little holes poked, like in the modern paradigm, like little holes poked in the modern paradigm kind of thing, but not so obvious. Isn't that odd that right next to that is this like really obvious path that like something happened that, like, let's say a current was flowing here, like, and it just went that way instead. Like at the center where like is the most likely place to run into an equatorial current for this current and get overwhelmed and go that way. It does that. Like there's a path there right adjacent to where the path over here is just not as like distinct. Like it doesn't have as much current going through it as it had over here. And then it went that way. It's hard to say because we don't have like we don't have any more images, I guess, than what we have here. I guess it's more apparent here. If that's it, that's more apparent. It's probably equally apparent to this one in this image. Which is a little surprising because it's really, I mean, it could be the glare, but it still looks subtle, like over here. This is definitely broad across there. Broad. Like the width of the mouse thing there. Like this is barely noticeable there. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm exaggerating the anomaly there. Okay, let's check out this one. I wanted to say I'm just like allowing it to be that way. Like it's more of just a like I don't care. It's not like an admission that it wasn't related. Is a let's just move on. Just thought. Did you see that coming? Maybe you saw it over there, but. So we got one of these things. Like this one. That has the chakras that we've talked about several times. Maybe I'll bring up the pictures. Bring up the pictures. This one. This one with the chakras here. With the lobes out here. Chakra. Chakra. Lobe out this way. Ammonite structure in here that's part of one of these. Like, it's actually part of them. It's not this separate, but it's like definitely ammonite structure. With some curiosities in there. La-di-da-da-da. And that's this. So it's of this nature, which we have previously seen this type of thing, where like the structure itself, where like the little nub of the like brachiopod or whatever this is, these like points where the ripples ripple from, where they approach, the focal point of the ripples, I guess. We've seen it where they are kind of like related to the chakra like this, in a chakra-esque type of structure, where the reason this stone didn't form more cohesively ammonites it seems to be related to like how the energy interacted, I believe. Like, it did form this ammonite here, but there's all these there's layers where currents are colliding in ways like this. So there's like a chakra over here where the currents are just not colliding in the appropriate way and not interacting in the appropriate way, that are what leads to ammonites. Instead, it led to these like peculiar brachiopods that are layered way too anomalously to make any sense, that have ammonite type structures to them. And then here's another one that has that like focal point towards the chakras. And then notably, like this, the way this is, like it goes up and then over like a chakra, up and over. And not only does it go up here, where it goes up, like notice these are kind of softly wrapping around, softly. Like if you didn't see here, you probably would just draw like a line going more like this way. You know what I'm saying? But then abruptly, boom, there's a strong, at the boundary of the rock, a strong this way tendency to these right there. Which we can see again there. And then even within that though, we can see this line going across here, like right there. We can see it etched there, like approaching it, where it really like abruptly changes. If it's even like flowing into there, I guess it probably is, but where there's like a lobe out this way with a chakra here that presumably had another lobe of some other material, probably. It may or may not be another Shaligram. But where it didn't like form a lobe of an ammonite, is my point. It formed one of these brachiopod type things. But having the characteristics of the current present to actually make like the features manifest, where there's like there is some aspect of chakras forming. It just didn't have the appropriate energy to form a full-blown ammonite. So instead it flowed along the surface in like a pseudo-lobe kind of way, but like organized structurally in regular patterns, one after another, that maybe are like what we saw the other, going back and forth I don't know. I've never really thought about these all that extensively before this one, and this is like a single example where shaligrams as a whole, which are mostly every other shaligram in terms of having ammonites, so like more traditional types of shaligrams. I've looked at thousands and thought about probably close to 1,000 that I've literally discussed on video. 1,000 shaligrams. This is like the only one that really has this like type of character. There's probably like 10 that have this, but like very few. I'm definitely exaggerating the limitedness, but like 10, and by far that one is like the most. So I haven't really thought it through that much. Okay, let's keep going. This one I thought was a little odd. It has like a little arrowhead type thing to it. Notice like it doesn't have the connectedness. Maybe it's because of subsequent erosion. I found it very odd, hard to really fathom what to even make of it. Like, what exactly was going on here? Because like on the surface, so like it's happening right on top of a layer that seems to be the same layer. Like it goes from here around to over here and this way, so it's like the same layer. In terms of the eroded product, I guess, like there's not any disconnect between the top and the bottom. It's kind of like a chakra, so I guess maybe it's doing like that one. I should just keep this one open. Maybe it's doing like that. Just real subtle, like in the layer. Like above a certain point, maybe. Some divide in the energy, some reason. I don't know if it's doing that. That was just a thought that occurred to me. This is very odd. It's a very odd shaligram. This also has some kind of maybe tooth-like things on it. Reminds me of current going along the boundaries. Starting to remove material, but specifically going along the boundary here and along the boundary here to go like around each other and etching this like puppy dog face or something. I don't know. Some kind of animal face with ears. I'm seeing a dog. No eyes or anything, really. One eyeball, maybe another eyeball. Little tiny mouth. What are those dogs called? Shih Tzu? I'm seeing a Shih Tzu. Shih Tzu. I knew I was spelling it right, but I did it for funsies. Or it wasn't. Plus, I don't know how to actually spell it. So, Shih Tzu. Shih Tzu. I'm totally seeing one of those in there. Oh, look how cute. Oh, let's compare a little Shih Tzu guy with Shih Tzu stone. Tell us all about Shih Tzus, sir. Maybe a little long in the ears on this one. I'm pretty sure their ears are significantly shorter, so it's not like drooping down there, I don't think. I don't know how far their ears droop. Let's get some other. Like this guy. Let's see. Really important. There we go. There we go. This guy's maybe a little more appropriate here. Pardon me, guys. Okay, this is one of those things with like a nub. Little things going around. It's hard to say what even this one is. Like, is it one of those brachiopod things like these things going on? Like, looking at like right here kind of thing. Like just a bit there. Or is it like one of those baculite kind of things that are like long tube spraying nozzle things? It's just like kind of sticking out there of like a pole. Or is it like a piece of an ammonite forming or formed adequately enough that it's like ammonite-esque? Hard to say. It looks like it's kind of not sure itself. We see some of those ripples there too. Over there too. Over here. Like a bunch of currents. Eddies on the corners of the stone. So eddy over here. Possibly eddy here. Eddy here. Possibly an eddy, like, or inflowing current here or something. But speaking of eddies on the corners, maybe I can quickly find, because I think it's pretty early. Some of the shaligrams will have ammonites, not just like a single ammonite in the center, but like it'll be like a square rectangular ammonite that then, or a shaligram that has ammonites in the corners that one reminds me of. Here's another one with suture patterns that make no sense wrapping around the other side of it. Here's the one I was thinking of that's layered. It's not just like that poop one, but layered. That reminded me of the other one. I should probably go soon. How many more do we got here? Oh damn. Oh lord. I do this to myself. Oh lord. 2:30. I guess I've only been streaming like an hour and a half. It's kind of late. Oh my god, my stomach. I think I got some pressing matters that are getting a little more pressing. What was I even looking for? Oh, fuck. These things are incredible. Haven't really scrolled through in a while. Imagine if I did, I'd find some interesting details I didn't notice before. But, I mean, it's almost like I got a whole catalog to look at ready to go. And then this one I thought was interesting. The way, again, it's like divided in half here, where half of them have like chambers, and then the next one, the next half is like a single unit over here. So like one unit, and then a unit of units. And then the stone itself has this divide over here, divide over here, divide over here, like it's being divided into thirds, like the flux capacitor thing going on again. Lots of subtle little lines there, like the ribs. That's interesting. Oh, that's that one. And then another similar one where this one's a little different, where the chambers go out further, and then the just like single unit is out here. Very cool. Okay, this one kind of reminded me of a current. Maybe I should do this. Running into, again, the standard thing that we're kind of talking about here. Let's see. Blue, whatever. Some current. Oh, that's just a resistance that's running into. That in this case, my thoughts are it generally got through some region and bent the current to more so go up this way. While like some front portion, like down here, it just kind of cut a path through while this still went around it and kept going. So it like made a channel through this current that's going across, but then it pushed its boundaries, relatively speaking, not like entirely out like that though, so that these currents more so went like around it. And then they, like once they passed that inflowing current, they were able to go back down past the pressure and went this way. Possibly like some of it wrapping into by like the inflowing current here. That also was over here that maybe like pushed some of it back. And probably played into making that corner more smooth, etc. But then essentially eddied in the stone. To then, I guess what we talked about before was it's kind of interesting. Let's see, it's running over here, like into resistance here, which suggests the eddy at this location is kind of going this way. And let me see if I can find it. Brings to mind this one, where the eddy, the current went into this Shaligram, in my interpretation, as a inner and outer current like this, to then go through the Shaligram and specifically do something like this. So maybe we can use this kind of idea to see how well it matches. I don't know. Although this maybe would be like more, in this case, like together. Like, let's say this current's coming in here generally, and some region let's say here it goes that way, and then some other region, this region, probably. I like these regions now that I've since like started to assign them, if you will. Like that one, and then over here, this region spirals inward. So that then there's like one of these divided things kind of thing going on, although I don't see it particularly in the details here or here, and that's the only images we have of this. I don't think there's any other images on the website either. Might as well check. I don't think there are. If there are, they were so similar I didn't bother. Okay, there's other images. Let's see. Okay, that one's blurry, so I didn't bother. That one's blurry, so I didn't bother probably. This one's the only one that wasn't blurry anyway. I don't think we can see that region better either. I mean, it's possible. Like here, there's something, I don't know. But I don't see particularly like a divided point in this, so it might be like going more both ways throughout as like interlocking but adjacent in a way where it's going in and out the eddy. It's so much energy, it's spiraling inward and outward and along like exhaust short circuit paths where it just goes out those ways, above and below, like the other one, and like all the other ones. Where it just exhausts. In this region, like goes down and underneath into this space. Like it doesn't just go up, ramp up again a lot. It probably does somewhat after the structure starts forming, but it really starts cutting down between, which is what's like defining the ammonite. How the currents are being pushed by the pressures to do these things. Incredible Shaligram with lots of anomalies. This I found anomalous. What is up with this? Look how thin it is. And how thick it is. And like not the same shape it is. This is much less than this, or less than. So not the same shape overall as the actual ammonite. It's not even the same shape, I would say, as over here. This is more like this one. And then this looks a lot like the Shih Tzu kind of way it is. More so than like an ammonite. In terms of just like a flow coming in and like pushing class around. Classed like these things. Like a flow of moving particles like this. That's not in any way biological, at least not in like modern science's interpretation thereof, but is of biology in general, like how biology is and its relationship to geology itself. I'm sure there's more connections, but there's also less connections in that it's literally not biology. It is a geological process that's really fundamental physics, that's scale invariant, that reveals nuances, that sometimes just shows evidences of that it is current flowed better than other times. Again, we see up here like the way the chakra even comes to a chakra in the boundary here. That's kind of interesting. We saw that in another Shaligram, I think, in this list, where it had like internal boundary, this one. This boundary that comes to like a sharp point here. Where I believe I said it's like, it's related to the ammonite, but it's not related to the ammonite. That is more, I believe I said it's more than that. I watched it, I was like, well, it's obviously related to the ammonite, like that shape. So like to make it like it's not even related to the ammonite, I said it's more than that. But specifically, it's more than that. There's like a geometry to it that is seemingly happening also here, and just the way it eroded the boundary. Like, this is not necessary. This could have more material up here. It's unrelated to the ammonite that's down here. It could have more material that filled in, but it doesn't, but it like comes to a chakra at the chakra, which is also a kind of imbalanced in the way. Like, this is very void, this is very a lot of material still, interestingly, almost like a chakra. Like, this is coming to like this balance point over here almost. Which is maybe why it's so out of balance overall. Right, like, there's this ballooning side and this mass side relating to that boundary. Then there's some erosion on the top. I believe here's some more pictures of it. Erosion on the top. The way this is, like, and then it gets wider and wider and turns into something more like that. More of these like ribs like this in the middle of the structure where they just shouldn't be. Because, and by shouldn't be, I mean if these are fossils. Ones like these, it's like, what are we doing? Who said these are fossils? Who said that? I want to talk to them. I want to talk to your manager. Can we get your manager in here? Who said these were fossils anyway? Who accepted it? What? I know it's not universally accepted. That's the thing, is everyone's overwhelmed by like Western ideology right now. But like, there's so many truths in Hindu teachings, including that shaligrams are etched by adamantine, I don't know the word. Adamantine. Rigidly firm, unyielding river worms, shaligrams. Or river worms. River worms. River worms. Remember that drilling currents. One, which we can really go to drilled through. This one has some like over here, like this. Boundary, at the boundary. Reminds me of the pressure washer spray nozzle that shoots in a spray like that. Thanks to Jack for bothering to use my spray nozzle. That's it. It's like, oh shit. And then we did it in dirt. We sprayed a trench in the dirt with the nozzle. It's sprayed like this. I'm like, dude, it's freaking doing the thing. literally taking little chunks of mud that are just like caught in the nozzle's flow and just pulling them out just like that, pretty much. Just a little more shalligrammy, a little less pressure washing the dirty, and now spray through, drilled through like that one though. There, just in these cases, it's just cutting through like this current. This and these were caused by probably the same general current as this, that in this case that's actually eddied. But over here, they just passed along the boundary of the stone. In these cases, they cut in with such directness, I guess, that like the meant by direct opposition of pressure, it wasn't causing them to eddy, I guess. Here it kind of skips around, like it eddies here, and skips over to here where it eddies. It's kind of what I would interpret, that it actually was like moving, eddied here, and then it kind of got over here, eddied, and then it's over here. Kind of like Yellowstone, going from like the Columbia River basalt area down through the Snake River plains to Yellowstone, maybe, I don't know. Just an interesting thought that it just occurred to me. I'm not saying they're that related, but maybe there's something that can be related to them. But like these don't even make sense. Like what boundary of what stone can do this? It doesn't make any sense. Or what boundary of what fossil seashell can create multiple ripples of its boundary out from its boundary that are taking like abnormal shapes but defined shapes and discrete. It makes no sense unless they're current etched. Etched by currents, then it's actually possible. The end. These are cool the way this is. It starts out straight relatively, and then it has a little mound, bigger mounds, and then sharper mounds, and then it gets more wavy, and then it gets really tall. And the end. With like a chamber, and maybe a chamber forming, like actually forming in it. I don't know. This we can see like a little bit of pyrite there, a little bit of pyrite there. This is kind of what I was thinking also with this one. So imagine this is one of those nooks. Like here, and that Shaligram formed in of a much larger ammonite eddy current flow that was just a tiny little like nook of, and that's where that formed. And then that one, okay, that's the next one is the last one. It's almost 3, so I'm probably gonna head out, guys, after that. Thanks for hanging. I appreciate it. It's been a blast. Thanks for the comment. I don't know if anyone else commented. Sorry if I don't see comments. I don't know. My comments are not set up very well. I should probably get them on the screen too, to be fair. Like, thanks for commenting, but then you get like, oh, who knows what the hell kind of shit. Who knows what kind of comments, like, oh, I would rather that just not be on my screen on this stream forevermore. That's kind of unfortunate. You know, like porn or whatever related, like spam, The people saying stupid shit if it's actually a real person. Frequently not a real person though. Like, oh, would you like more views? Oh god. So this one reminds me a lot of this one. But then it's just kind of like an ammonite. Like, not really fully forming an ammonite. There's very little like definitive ammonite boundary to it, but it looks much more like a standard like dividing by an ammonite kind of shaligram this way. But then at the top of it, it just gives me like the way it is, it just really reminds me of the way this is. Like it was essentially something like this that's forming something more like this. But it didn't quite do it, so it's still like this. And it has these weird little ripples over here, like a chakra maybe was forming there. Maybe a chakra there that was like cutting in underneath it, really. Was that play as well, at least? But it really seems like the chakra would have formed underneath here. Well, I mean, it's possible one was forming out here that cuts in and gets into there to then interact inside, where then the chakra would have formed maybe more underneath this. I don't know. It probably is underneath there. There probably is some kind of type of chakra-esque thing underneath there, that this is not like what's doing all of this, but maybe temporarily taking advantage of the circumstance of it all to form an eddy there. Alright guys, speaking of taking advantage, I'm going to take advantage of that and say I'm done here and going to bed. Probably gonna go smoke realistically. Gotta brush my teeth. Gotta do other stuff. We could probably take some time and look at some of the shaligrams, but it's alright. That's enough. Alright guys, appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.